I remember the first step I took into that buzzing community college lobby, my worn-out backpack digging into my shoulder, my hands trembling like I had electricity running through my veins. Every face felt like a spotlight, every eye a judgment I couldn't escape. A group of younger students lingered near the counter, whispering, laughing, their voices slicing through the air like knives. "She's too old for this," one of them muttered, barely concealing their amusement. My fingers fumbled over the registration form, the paper shaking under my grip, and I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. The clerk raised an eyebrow, a small, subtle question in her look, as if asking, "Why are you here?" I could feel the weight of the room pressing down, the hum of whispers and stifled giggles crawling into my ears. I flashed back to Aunty Linda, sitting at our kitchen table long past midnight, eyes weary but burning with determination, flipping through textbooks, her pen scratching like a drumbeat of quiet rebellion. That memory steadied me, and then I heard it again, soft but cutting. "She'll never keep up with us." The words weren't new, they were familiar echoes of years of doubt, but today they felt heavier, sharper. Embarrassment and fury mingled in my chest, a cocktail that made my hands clench and my jaw tighten. Ugh. My mentor slid a sheet of paper across the desk to me, a quiet challenge in his tired eyes. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" he asked. I nodded, even though my heart was pounding. I was ready. I had to be. Family memories surged unbidden. Cousins boasting about internships and degrees, their smug faces a constant shadow over every dinner, every laugh, every milestone I had quietly watched from the corner. Then came the first public jab, a professor's voice cutting through the tension with a teasing edge. "Did you misread the age limit?" The class tittered nervously, glances darting between me and the paper in my hand. I felt my face heat up, humiliation squeezing tight around my ribs. I left that room with my head high, even though my heart raced, and in that moment, a quiet fire ignited in my chest, a resolve that whispered over the sting of every insult and every doubt. I would prove them wrong, not just for me, not just for pride, but for the version of Aunty Linda they had never and would never see coming. Então, growing up, I watched Aunty Linda move through life like a shadow most people didn't notice, silently carrying the weight of everyone else's dreams while shelving her own. She cooked, cleaned, and comforted, always the backbone, always invisible. I remember those nights in the kitchen when the house was silent, and she would sit with textbooks sprawled across the counter, exhausted from work, tears sliding quietly down her cheeks. The world never saw that. No applause, no recognition, just a woman buried under obligations, fighting a private battle. Her whispered regrets haunted me even then. "I wish I had pursued school when I was younger," she said once, voice fragile, almost lost to the hum of the refrigerator. The words stung more than anyone realizing, more than any insult from others. Family gatherings were torture. Cousins paraded scholarships, internships, awards, and accolades. Everyone celebrated them. And Aunty Linda? She sat in the corner, underestimated, overlooked, dismissed as if ambition faded with age. I relive the whispers from childhood peers, the sly comments about her being too old, implying that intelligence, curiosity, and ambition were strictly for the young. Their words were like knives, but they never broke her. They sharpened her instead. And then I learned the secrets they never told me. Scholarship applications denied because the administrators deemed her unfit due to age. Doors closed for reasons that had nothing to do with talent or determination. I feel it all now. The quiet pride she carried, intertwined with frustration and simmering anger, a wound that forged resilience sharper than any classroom test could teach. I remember the first time she nudged me to fight for my own education, despite mockery and ridicule, planting a rebellious seed that grew quietly but persistently inside me. There was the night she insisted on reading complex essays aloud, her voice trembling with fatigue but unwavering in conviction, teaching me that knowledge demanded persistence and courage demanded defiance. I internalized all of it, the years of being dismissed, the injustices hidden behind smiles and politeness. Ageism isn't just cruelty, it's a weapon society wields quietly, shaping how people see themselves, and it has fueled the quiet, burning rage inside us, the fire that will drive our plan forward, turning humiliation into victory. Honk. The first day of class hit us like a storm. Whispers and stares followed us down every hallway, like shadows we couldn't shake. Every glance felt like a judgment, every murmur a challenge we hadn't asked for. No. Younger students rolled their eyes at Aunty Linda's contributions in group discussions, their smirks thinly veiling disbelief. They didn't know her. They didn't see the fire behind her calm exterior, and they certainly didn't anticipate what was coming. During one discussion, a professor, perhaps unintentionally, compared her to a sweet grandma trying, and the room erupted in awkward laughter. I felt my chest tighten, a simmering defiance building, a promise that their amusement would be short-lived. That night, under the soft glow of a lamp, Aunty Linda and I huddled over textbooks and notebooks, our pens scratching furiously across pages. Late-night study sessions became our sanctuary, a quiet war room where strategy met determination. Every humiliation was cataloged silently, notes jotted down, screenshots taken, each insult and dismissal preserved as ammunition for the inevitable reckoning. During a lab demonstration, she stumbled. A few students snickered, barely concealing their glee, but I watched closely as she recovered instantly, twisting the moment into a teaching opportunity, turning weakness into authority with subtle brilliance. Rivalries began to form. Peers who had dismissed her now tried to undermine her with veiled insults disguised as questions, pushing boundaries, testing patience. And I felt a protective fury rising in me, mingling with admiration for her resilience and the righteous anger that fueled every response. Small victories began to surface. She answered complex questions effortlessly, her explanations crisp and precise, making skeptical classmates pause mid-sentence, jaws dropping in reluctant awe. Late nights bled into early mornings. Caffeine-fueled sessions, flashcards spread across counters, the weight of past disappointments pressing against the present. All of it fueled her relentless dedication. Every setback she had endured before only sharpened her focus now. Public humiliation continued in subtle forms, eye rolls, snide comments, whispered doubts, but each act of underestimation became an opportunity. And quietly, almost imperceptibly, seeds of admiration began to sprout among those watching her succeed. By the end of the week, it was clear Aunty Linda wasn't just surviving the environment, they were witnessing her rise, each small triumph a declaration that she belonged and that underestimation was about to be punished. The call came late one evening, the phone vibrating like a heartbeat in my hand. It was her former mentor, now retired, his voice carrying the weight of years of knowledge and a rare offer, access to hidden academic resources, guidance most students could only dream of. I felt a spark of hope, a key turning in the lock of what had felt like endless obstacles. Then came the revelation. A young classmate had been posting anonymous comments online, doubting her capabilities, mocking her silently to a digital audience. The words were petty, cruel, and yet they illuminated the truth. Everyone underestimated her, but they didn't know the power quietly simmering beneath the surface. Aunty Linda had uncovered past academic records, hidden evidence of brilliance in unfinished courses, top grades that administrators had buried or ignored. She had always been exceptional. Now she held proof, tangible proof, that the world had judged her too soon. The pivotal confrontation arrived in class. A professor, again underestimating her, interrupted her explanation, a smirk barely concealed. She paused, composed, and then dismantled his argument with precise knowledge, her calm authority leaving the room in stunned silence. For the first time, I saw her quiet pride evolve into audacious confidence. Her spirit, once hidden behind modesty, now radiated unshakable strength. She wasn't just surviving, she was asserting herself, commanding respect without shouting. A phone call from a former rival cousin arrived, dripping with skepticism, mocking her final push. Instead of faltering, she used it. Each dismissive word became fuel, stoking the fire that had been quietly burning for years. I realized then that our plan was never just academic. This was about vindication, reclaiming dignity, rewriting the narrative imposed by those who had dismissed her for decades. A secret ally appeared unexpectedly, a senior student who had quietly observed her determination. They offered collaboration, subtle but impactful, tipping the power dynamics in our favor without drawing attention. Flashbacks of late-night tutoring sessions played in my mind, the whispered affirmations, the quiet encouragement, my silent admiration for her unyielding resolve. Every struggle, every sleepless night, every whispered word of confidence had led to this moment. Tension coiled tighter as final exams and public presentations approached. We were preparing for the stage where humiliation would reverse, where underestimation would meet its reckoning. Every step, every plan, every whispered word of strategy was leading to the moment when everything would change. Final exams loomed like a storm on the horizon. The younger classmates, sensing the moment, tried everything they could to sabotage Aunty Linda's group project. Quiet jabs, subtle undermining, mocking whispers meant to rattle her confidence. I stayed close, recording every slight discreetly, every hushed insult preserved as evidence of the ageist assumptions they thought were invisible. Every note, every screenshot, every careless comment would later speak louder than words ever could. Presentation day arrived. She walked into the lecture hall with poise, shoulders squared, radiating quiet authority. The jeers and snickers rolled over her like wind over stone, ignored, irrelevant. She had a stage now, and she would own it. Each question thrown her way was met with precision. She referenced obscure yet perfectly relevant sources, her explanations sharp and unwavering. Every skeptical glance, every doubtful frown was met with facts and insight that left the room suspended in disbelief. A rival tried to interrupt mid-explanation, a smirk playing at their lips. Aunty Linda paused, her eyes steady, her voice cutting through the tension with razor-sharp wit. Applause erupted, sudden and unrestrained, a sound sweeter than any victory imagined. Classmates who had mocked her for months now watched in real time as brilliance unfolded before them. The whispers of doubt dissolved into awe, a transformation that felt almost tangible in the air. During Aquanda, I subtly presented the evidence we had gathered. Screenshots, documented slights, and dismissive comments displayed with quiet intent. The room shifted, the underlying prejudice could no longer hide. The dean acknowledged her achievement, contrasting it implicitly with the early dismissals, offering validation that had long been denied. Recognition was no longer delayed. It was earned, undeniable, and public. Ceremony day arrived like a coronation. She walked across the stage, her family watching, cousins' smug faces frozen in disbelief. Every past insult, every whispered doubt, every comment of too old was reversed, rendered powerless in the face of her triumph. I felt a surge of pride, joy, and vindication. Watching her reclaim dignity after years of being underestimated was a moment of pure, unfiltered justice. Official recognition followed. Scholarships, honors, and opportunities once denied now became hers, legally and academically, sealing the reversal of fortune. Public reactions flooded in. Viral posts celebrated her intelligence, perseverance, and courage. Admiration spread through the community like wildfire. And finally, the world acknowledged what we had always known. She was unstoppable. Auntie Linda's triumph rippled through the campus. Peers and faculty approached her, congratulations mingled with apologies, and others inspired by the sheer force of her determination. Recognition, long denied, finally arrived in full. I reflect quietly on what made this possible. The subtle power of patience, strategy, and calculated persistence, transforming humiliation into unassailable triumph. Every setback, every whispered doubt had been folded into a larger plan, and it worked. Former rivals now avoided eye contact, their smirks replaced by grudging respect. The dismissive laughter that had once filled halls was gone, replaced by acknowledgement and, in some cases, quiet admiration. Family gatherings became celebrations of her achievements. Decades of overlooked contributions were now the centerpiece of conversation. Cousins and relatives who once dismissed her now nodded, smiled, and clapped with genuine pride. In a quiet moment, we sat together, sifting through grades, letters, and recognitions. Tears of relief and pride mingled silently, unspoken emotions heavier than any words could capture. Her confidence had changed. She wasn't just Auntie Linda anymore. She had become a symbol of unstoppable resilience, a living testament to what determination, intellect, and courage could accomplish. The whispers of "too old" no longer haunted the air. They had been transformed into echoes of admiration, a reversal so complete it almost felt poetic. Plans began forming for her next academic pursuits, mentorship opportunities, ways to guide others who had been underestimated. Revenge had ended, but growth and influence had only begun. I narrate silently, understanding the truth. Humility, patience, and intelligence can outshine ridicule far more powerfully than confrontation ever could. The lesson was engraved in every triumph, every recovered ounce of dignity. The emotional arc reached its resolution. Wounds of past humiliation began to heal, leaving space for empowerment, pride, and the quiet satisfaction of justice served. Even beyond our circle, her story inspired younger students. Quietly, subtly, perceptions about age, ambition, and education began to shift, proving that one person's victory could ripple outward, changing minds without a single word of force. I faced the camera, sunlight spilling warm and golden across the room, my voice calm but carrying weight. The journey we've lived, from ridicule to triumph, hangs in every word I speak. I recount it all, the whispers, the dismissals, the subtle jabs meant to make her doubt herself, and how each one became fuel for a fire she refused to extinguish. Resilience, I realized, was the weapon no one could take from her. I reflect on what it truly took: patience to endure, strategic planning to turn every setback into advantage, and emotional intelligence to navigate a world that had long underestimated her. These were the tools that forged her victory. Flashbacks appear. Laughter echoing through classrooms, late-night study sessions lit by lamplight, her hand steady over textbooks, and the moment she walked across that graduation stage, dignity reclaimed and smugness silenced. I emphasize directly, being underestimated is never weakness. It is a spark. It can ignite extraordinary victories when met with resolve and courage. Lessons unfold naturally: courage to face mockery, preparation to convert doubt into triumph, and the transformation of public humiliation into personal power that no one could ever erase. The camera pans through a visual montage: her proud smile, classmates' awe-filled reactions, family embracing her accomplishment, tears of pride mingling with joy and relief. The emotional takeaway is clear. Everyone carries hidden potential: timing, strategy, persistence. These are the forces that shape it into visible, undeniable success. And to you watching, remember this: pursue your dreams relentlessly. Age, ridicule, and societal expectations are not chains. They are challenges meant to be overcome. No one can define your limits except you. Rise, persist, and surprise the world.